Hi there. So here we have a broken stereo on a Honda Jazz. A common problem apparently. So what happens is pretty much the radio gives up. So no matter what you do, you can't change any of the presets, do any of the tunings. Stuff like the volume still works, and if you've got CD or the auxiliary, that's still working. Just pretty much the radio, anything you do with it is well, kaput. So what we're going to try and do in this video is try and fix it. There's a few suggestions on the forums, Honda forums, so we're going to have a look at those and see if we can get this thing repaired. So yeah, let's get cracking. So I've got the stereo out. If you watched one of my earlier videos on when I fitted this thing, which is the Bluetooth wireless speaker, then that kind of goes through what you need to do. Basically there's a cover below the heater controls you have to remove, and then there's a couple of screws holding the stereo in, and then the whole thing just pulls out. So first thing is probably now going to have to get this cover off and try and actually get into the stereo, because we're going to have to try and extract the main PCB. So yeah, let's get started on that. Okay, so we managed to take the screws out of the back of the top cover, and then it kind of slides off, which reveals the internals of the radio. So what we're going to have to do now is remove the CD player, because we obviously need to get down onto that circuit board and try and get that out somehow. So yeah, next step is for me to try and figure out how to get the CD player out of here. So let's get on with that. Okay, so that was a complete and utter faff. Ended up having to take the entire unit out, because you're not going to be able to work on this with it in the car. Basically, you can see on the side here, there's a load of screws. There's one at that back there in the middle you have to watch out for, and on the front kind of here and down there, and it kind of screws into the kind of frame or the cage inside the stereo. And obviously you see here, watch out for this connector. Obviously that sort of plugs into the display at the front, but yeah, eventually if you take all the screws out, which is probably a good place to start, you will be able to get the whole thing out. So now we'll get this inside and try and split this so that we can get to the circuit board. Looks like there's a few screws and whatnot around the case, which is kind of holding the board in place. So yeah, more screws to undo. So let's get on with that. So the CD player comes out by undoing 4 screws. So you've got 2 here at the front, and then there's 2 at the back, and then the whole thing should lift out, and then that gives you access to the main circuit board, which you'll now try and extract. So we finally got the circuit board out of the case. Things worth mentioning is that it is actually soldered onto the tuner module here, so you'll have to desolder that in order to get it off the case. But yeah, now that we have the board, we're going to try and replace this part down here. Now this part is labelled IC502, and according to the wonders of the internet, this is an 8-volt regulator, voltage regulator, and apparently people have suggested that this gives up the ghost and causes the radio to stop working. So what we're going to do is remove this, stick in a new one, and hopefully get the radio working again. So yeah, let's crack on with that. So here we have the new part fitted. I'll put the part number in the description. So let's get it back in the car and see if it's fixed the radio. Okay, so I've put the main radio bit back in the car. So I've just kind of put some of the screws back in to hold it onto the front panel, and obviously put the connectors in at the back, just the main one and the aerial. So it should have power now, so let's give it a go and see what happens. So switching it on, and yep, we have radio. So let's see if the seek and all that stuff's working. Yep, that's all good.
Of the weeks, isn't it? Right, but I'm sorry, I don't have.
Yep. So let's just turn the volume down. So yeah, it appears replacing that voltage regulator, which was IC502. I'll put the part number in the description. does indeed seem to fix the radio. So yeah, if you fancy having a go yourself, I mean, obviously you can see it's fairly involved. You have to solder quite a small part onto the board, but if you're happy doing that, you can definitely save yourself a few quid rather than having to go out and buy another stereo. So yeah, I hope that will help some of you guys, and thanks for watching.